We've got a strange media story where Meghan Markle's integrity has been called into question yet again. The former actress turned princess, her rags to royalty story, with a particular focus on her struggles being an only child.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. And I wished I had siblings. I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be.
You know, it's been just a series of lies, and I can't believe we're essentially looking at $100 million fake news PR machine. It's just so not true, and the whole.
Here's something that should make you stop and think. Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, Meghan Markle's 2 children with Prince Harry, will likely never meet their aunt. Not because of geography, not because of scheduling conflicts, but because a family that was never really close to begin with has now been broken beyond repair. Think about that for a moment. Meghan's half-sister Samantha is 16 years older than her. They share the same father, Thomas Markle Sr., but they grew up in completely different worlds. Samantha was born to Thomas's first wife, Roslyn. Meghan was born to his second wife, Doria. And by the time Meghan came along, Samantha was already a teenager, living her own life. The relationship was never a traditional sibling bond. Meghan has said she saw Samantha only a handful of times growing up, and the last time they actually saw each other was when Meghan was in her early 20s. That's not a close family. That's barely a family at all. And yet, this estrangement has become one of the most documented family breakdowns in modern royal history, playing out in interviews, in a Netflix documentary, in a courtroom, and now, in a hospital in the Philippines where Meghan's father recently had his leg amputated.
The person who has little credibility is Meghan Markle. She's the Duchess of Toxicity. No one can stand her. She has enemies lining up in the streets virtually. She's got so many people that she's fallen out with, and I think it's a real problem for her. She's fallen out with her father. She doesn't talk to her half-sister. She's got a string of relatives she's got nothing to do with. I think Meghan Markle should take a bit of her own advice, and she's always preaching to everyone, you know, we've all got to get along, we've all got to be kind, it's all this lovey-dovey rubbish. She doesn't talk to half her family.
That's a lie. Well, you know,
I
hilarious. Meghan's a liar again. I don't know if that comment specifically is defamatory.
To understand how this family fell apart, you have to understand that it was never really together in the first place. Meghan's parents, Thomas Markle Sr. and Doria Ragland, divorced when Meghan was just 2 years old. She was raised primarily by her mother in Los Angeles, a single-parent household where Doria worked as a yoga instructor and social worker. Meghan visited her father on occasion, but she didn't live with him. She didn't grow up in his household. Meanwhile, Samantha and Thomas Jr., Meghan's half-brother, who is 14 years older than her, were from their father's first marriage, which ended in 1975, 6 years before Meghan was even born. They had their own mother, their own childhood, their own family dynamic. By the time Meghan arrived, Samantha was 16 and Thomas Jr. was 14. They were already young adults, starting their own lives. Meghan has described this reality in stark terms. In her 2021 Oprah interview, she said she grew up as an only child and that she barely knew her half-siblings. In her Netflix docuseries, she said she didn't remember seeing Samantha at her father's house when they would come around. She even said she doesn't know Samantha's birthday or her middle name. For Samantha and Thomas Jr., though, this portrayal has been deeply hurtful. They've disputed Meghan's account on camera, describing themselves as present throughout her upbringing. Thomas Jr. has said he used to be close to his half-sister, but that money changed her after she moved to Canada for work. Samantha wrote an entire book, The Diary of Princess Pushy Sister, detailing what she claims was their shared childhood. Who's right? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Memory is subjective. What felt like a lonely childhood to Meghan might have felt like a normal family to her siblings. But what's clear is that they experienced the same family very differently.
And, the whole grandmother thing, that just did it for us. I think my grandmother would be rolling over in her grave if she saw that, and she didn't take care of her. She visited her. She never made apple butter with her because my grandmother was making apple butter like in the 1970s before Meg was even born. So it's been so far-fetched. It's like a tragic comedy, especially sadly for our family, for the royals, and here we are.
Well, she does seem to have left quite a trail of destruction in her wake, but she also has, as you pointed out in your first sentence, a $100 million PR machine on her side, telling her story in soft focus. What's it like to be up against that?
Well, that's been on continuum. I mean, I found out from an attorney in London that there was an entrenched media agenda against me back in 2018. So on continuum, there's been, this series of fake news stories, and I couldn't bite it, let's face it. Companies like Sunshine Sachs that are powerhouses are really powerful, and so is the printed word. We didn't know how we were going to deal with it until, like they say, water seeks its own level. Eventually the truth comes out, and when it does, and when the dust settles, I thought, truth has to stand for something. Truth wins. So here we are.
I think it does. She's been able to keep the truth at bay, this is my read, by accusing anyone...
The real fracture, though, didn't happen in childhood. It happened in 2018, when Meghan married Prince Harry. Thomas Markle Sr., Meghan's father, the man who had worked as a lighting director on shows like Married, with Children, and had been a somewhat distant presence in her life, suddenly became a global figure. And he made choices that his daughter couldn't forgive. In the weeks leading up to the royal wedding, Thomas staged paparazzi photos of himself reading about his daughter in an internet cafe, getting fitted for a suit, preparing for the big day. It was a stunt, and he was caught. Meghan was reportedly devastated. She begged him to stop talking to the press, but he continued. Then he claimed he had a heart attack and couldn't attend the wedding, leading Prince Charles to walk Meghan down the aisle instead. The final blow came when Meghan wrote him a private letter, begging him to stop speaking to the media. He kept that letter for months. Then, in February 2019, Meghan's friends gave an anonymous interview to People magazine describing the letter as an olive branch. Thomas, angry at the characterization, gave the letter to the Mail on Sunday, which published its contents. Meghan sued the newspaper for breach of privacy and won, but the damage to her relationship with her father was already done. She later testified that the letter's publication was painful and that she had only ever called him Daddy in correspondence, a detail that was used against her in court. As for Meghan's siblings, they weren't invited to the wedding. Samantha said she felt snubbed, especially since 2,000 complete strangers were invited. Thomas Jr. wrote an open letter to Prince Harry warning him about Meghan before the wedding. Neither has had a relationship with Meghan since.
When you have a wedding and people start drinking champagne at the reception, they start talking.
Right.
So what could the motive be for keeping both sides of the family away?
That's right.
The stories would come out. So apparently, according to other journalists, we found out that there were a lot of porcupines probably told to the royals and even to Harry when they met her. And in order to cover up, oh my God, so you didn't get grants and scholarships. You never worked for the embassy. What do you mean you only did a 5-week study program? So our Uncle Mike, who worked for the embassy, as a favor to Dad paid for a 5-week study program. Uncle Mike threw in a letter of recommendation to be kind, even though he'd only met Meghan when she was a baby. And so, well, a 5-week study program is not, that doesn't equate with working at the embassy, which she told Rachel Ray and Craig Ferguson on live television. So all of these lies started coming out, but we didn't know that she had told the royal family so many porcupines. So it makes sense, oh my God, I've got to keep everybody away because if they start talking, the lies come out.
Classic.
But there were so many of them. And why? It would have been so easy to be honest about who she is and to be proud and to empower other women when she's out there using her platform. Be proud of who you are. Work hard. You don't have to pretend to be someone else. You don't have to dress like Diana. You don't have to say you got grants and scholarships. Give accolades to those who bring you up.
Is she not close to your father?
Meg?
Yeah.
Oh my God, they were incredibly close, which was also what was so bizarre. You know, he was the first one that got the phone call, Daddy, I met a prince. This is reportedly, and my father told me about this. They were really close up until seemingly having to seal off all the hatches and keep everybody from talking.
Fast forward to today. Thomas Markle Sr. is 81 years old. He recently moved to the Philippines and, in December 2025, underwent an emergency leg amputation after a blood clot cut off circulation. His son, Thomas Jr., told the Daily Mail that his father's foot turned blue then black, and that doctors said it was either we have to operate now and remove the leg or he may die. Thomas Markle has never met his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet. He has told the media that he doesn't want to die estranged from his daughter. I've always said I am open to reconciling with my daughter. I have never stopped loving her. I don't want to die estranged from Meghan. I want to meet my grandkids, he said. Meghan's spokesperson confirmed that she did reach out to her father following reports of the amputation. But the outreach was complicated by the media circus surrounding Thomas's hospital stay. A Daily Mail reporter was at his bedside throughout, broadcasting every interaction. Meghan's spokesperson expressed frustration that her attempts to contact her father privately were made difficult by the reporter's presence. What does this tell us? That even now, even at the end of a man's life, this family can't escape the media machinery that has fueled their estrangement for years.
And I said, so I just need you to tell me, and if you tell me the truth, we can help. And he wasn't able to do that.
Meghan Markle is opening up about the struggles within her own family.
Her parents were incredible. So I know they must be proud now. I know my dad is.
There was such an obsession about anything in my world, including tracking down my parents, and I did everything I could to protect both of them in that media. We called my dad and I asked him, and he said, no, absolutely not. And I said, you know, the institution has never intervened for anything for us, but they can try to go in and kill this story. But if they do this once, we're not going to be able to use that same leverage to protect our own kids one day. And I said, so I just need you to tell me. And if you tell me the truth, we can help.
Meghan recalled how her mother.
Everyone has accountability. Look, they've hunted my mom down.
Right.
And
she did speak to the tabloids.
You've never heard her say a word. She's remained in silent dignity for 4 years, watching me go through this.
And the family talk didn't stop.
So where do things stand today? Meghan is still estranged from her father and her half-siblings. Thomas has told the media he wants to reconcile, but there's no indication that has happened. Thomas Jr. has continued to make public statements and YouTube videos critical of his half-sister. Samantha, after her defamation lawsuit was dismissed, has continued to speak publicly about her grievances. And Meghan, she has moved on. She and Harry have built a life in California, raising their 2 children and building their brand. But the family story follows them. It's always there, lurking in the background, ready to resurface whenever someone gives an interview or writes a book or has a health crisis. The tragedy is that this family didn't start close and drift apart. They were never close to begin with. Different mothers, different childhoods, different lives. The royal wedding and the media attention that followed didn't create the distance. They just exposed it, made it public, made it permanent.
Breaking right now, Thomas Markle Jr., the sister of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, has lashed out at his sister and her husband Prince Harry in the most brutal interview he has ever given.
Long story short, all right, I do blame Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, the shit stain of humanity. Yes, Meghan, and I hope you're watching right now. I hope you're watching, Meghan, because you are the shit stain of humanity. I hope people spit in your face when they see you walking down the street.
It's really a little bit disturbing, saying that, you know, she doesn't have a family and she doesn't have a father, and then Harry saying that she has no father now. That's just ridiculous.
So, her half-brother, Thomas Jr., has been slammed for trolling the Duchess and peddling bizarre conspiracy theories about her in a series of weird YouTube videos. Here he is. He's got pillows stuffed under his shirt there. He's wearing a terrible wig.
Here's what we know. Archie and Lilibet will probably never meet their aunt. They'll probably never have a normal relationship with their maternal grandfather. The family that should have been part of their lives, that could have been part of their lives, has been broken by a combination of estrangement, media pressure, and, perhaps most importantly, a fundamental disagreement about what their shared history actually was. Courts have weighed in on some of this. A federal judge ruled that Meghan's statements about her childhood were her opinion, not defamatory facts. But no court can rule on whether this family could have been saved, or whether it was ever really a family at all. The story of Meghan and her siblings is a story about the limits of blood. You can share a father, share a last name, share a childhood home in memory if not in fact. But if you don't share a life, if you don't share love, if you don't share effort, then all you really share is a piece of paper that says you're related. And that's not enough to build a family on.